All right, it is now 1:05 p.m., August 17th, here at Tinian, San Jose, Tinian. Um, Before we proceed, I'd like to introduce the members of this committee. We have Vice Chair Senator Karina Magofnia, and then to my immediate right, Senator Carl King Neighbors, and to my far left, Senator Dennis Mendiola, and then we have joining the committee, Senator Jude Huff Schneider. I am Donald Manglonia, Chair for Fiscal Affairs, and with four members present, that constitutes a quorum to conduct today's committee meeting. And so with that, I now call this meeting to order. Before we proceed, just a couple of housekeeping matters. As I mentioned earlier, we will only focus on the four entities today. However, it looks like there's more than the four entities, so you're more than welcome to sit in. And I now move on to the next item. Can I get a motion for the adoption of today's agenda? All right, motion was made and seconded. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Motion carries. We now move on to the next item, which is public comments. Any comment from the public? Please keep your comments to 5 minutes. And it looks like there's none. We move on to the next item, introduction. Before us, we have the Municipality of Tinian and Neguigan. They are requesting a budget of 10,754,440 to include 283 FTEs. Of the budget that they've requested, 8 million or 75% of that is allocated for personnel. 2 million or 19% is for operations, and then 712,000 for utilities. And up first, we have the mayor of Tinian. The mayor had submitted a budget request of 3,095,600 for personnel. In addition to that, several big ticket items under operations include 458 for utilities, 96,000 for rental offices, 78,000 for fuel, 24,000 for repair and maintenance, 26,000 for cleaning services, 52,000 for communications, among other things. Last week, the House had passed their version of the budget, which essentially provided for 688 additional to the mayor's personnel funds, but reduced sports and recreation by close to 5,000, labor of Tinian close to 5, commerce close to 5, police by 405,000, fire by 140,000, agriculture by 5,000, and parks and recreation by 5,000. And so I hope that the mayor had the opportunity to review the House's version of the budget, and if you can use this time to share what are your concerns regarding that, in addition to what are some of the concerns regarding the use of this ARPA funds that was allocated to the municipality last fiscal year, and how much of those may be available for next fiscal year. And so with that, I'd like to hand over the floor to the mayor and his team.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And thank you for having this budget hearing on Tinian, and also to the members. Welcome to Tinian, and good afternoon. to the members. My name is Edwin P. Odan, and I am the Mayor of Tinian and Aguiguan. And thank you for the opportunity to provide my testimony today for fiscal year 2024 budget transmitted to the Senate from the House of Representatives. The House submission of fiscal year 2024 budget provides the Tinian Mayor's Office with only 28 FTEs, reducing the number of FTEs by 96 from the original 124. I stand before you and this committee today to express my concern regarding the House budget submission to the Senate. Last month during the budget hearing, I explained to the members of the House Ways and Means Committee the important role of our office for the municipality of Tinian to provide clarity and understanding to those who are not from Tinian or Rhoda. Allow me to elaborate more on the functions and importance of the Tinian Mayor's Office. The Tinian Mayor's Office has always been given 124 FTE to sustain the operations and services extended to the community. We are responsible for operating the library, the youth center, dog control division, municipal ID, ground maintenance of nearly all parks, tourist, and historical sites, building repairs, project planning, municipal scholarship, the slaughterhouse, the municipal treasury, the emergency preparedness, grant writing management, Saipan guest house, military liaison, and the planning and budget. Furthermore, we assist every state department and agency to include PSS, MVA, the Tinian Health Center, by providing personnel for additional support through a memorandum of understanding. If the legislature is unable to reinstate the 124 FTEs, which is the initial number of employees originally budgeted for our office, the Tinian municipality will essentially grind to a halt, as we are not only oversee all the state department on Tinian, but also we coordinate with all autonomous agencies relating to municipal matters. During the House budget hearing, they focused on a 3 million under the ARPA 622 funds received by the municipality and numerous revolving accounts that could possibly be identified as an additional funding source to assist in sustaining personnel and operations of the TN Mayor's office. Unfortunately, the current funding level available from the 3 million lessens with every single day that passes, given that we lack operating funds under the revised 2023 budget for Tinian. In essence, there is no other funding source available to continue the employment of 96 nor the 124 FTs that the Mayor's office lacks in the proposed budget. Most of you know that I have been in politics for over 20 years, and never have I seen a budget proposal that exclude or significantly reduces a mayor's office from their share of the general fund. Not only is this budget unbalanced and unfair, but the people of Tiong will not be given the same level of public service as the rest of the Sinimay. It is not just about the numbers that we are discussing here today. It is people's basic livelihood that is being eliminated simply because of political pushback. I made it very clear since the beginning of this budget process that the ramification of this cut will be felt by many families and individuals in this community. It is evidently reflected in the House budget submission to the Senate that they have not addressed the critical concerns of our office. It is here in this committee and the Senate where we hope our concerns may be addressed, mainly by reinstating all of the mayor's 124 FTEs. If we pass the House version of FY 2024 budget, come October 1st, I will be informing all 96 employees that their contract will not be renewed. However, it is also the responsibility of the legislature to explain to the people of Tinian why their positions were cut when all other positions in the cinema were maintained. In preparation for October 1st, The beginning of the new fiscal year, my staff has already drafted notices in case this unfortunate event occurs. It is disheartening to know that our municipality seems to be the only one affected by such a significant reduction in employees. This discrepancy raises questions about the fairness and the rationale behind this decision. Therefore, I ask members here today that as you sit and deliberate over this budget, remember that you not only represent your respective district, but the entire Sinamay as well, inclusive of Tinian's needs. This will be the opportunity to prove to the people of Tinian that your actions and decisions in passing FY24 budget will be fair, equitable, and just for all the municipalities and the people of the Sinamay. Next, I would like to draw your attention to another issue that requires further clarification and one that could potentially be an added concern for the municipality in the next fiscal year, which is the government's utility listed under independent programs. The question that I would like to put before this committee is whether the central government is responsible for all utility costs to CUC. If that is the case, I am requesting for your support and assistance in addressing our current predicament with regards to TN's utility billings being forwarded to the Department of Finance for payment. We understand that under the revised 23 budget, the central government is responsible for all government utility costs. Therefore, all requests for payment should be directed to the Department of Finance. About a month and a half ago, more than a couple of departments in Tinian had their requests returned by the Department of Finance, Saipan, with no explanation at all, just instructing the departments here to direct their utility request over to the Tinian Mayor's office. This situation places us in a very serious predicament, as it will have a negative impact on our ability to keep our utilities connected and continue providing essential service to the general public. I am hopeful that this committee will be able to assist us and not have this to be a recurring issue in the next fiscal year should the central government be responsible for these obligations. Additionally, I ask the Senate body to reinstate the MVA HUD funds as our municipality, similar to the municipality of Rhoda, heavily relies on this funding for beautification and ground maintenance work. These funds directly contribute to enhancing the attractiveness and appeal of our community, bolstering our tourism industry and overall economy. Lastly, I respectfully ask that this committee consider reinstating the salaries of the resident department heads from 40 to 45. These individuals fulfill their roles akin to a cabinet member within the executive branch, filling important roles and shaping the direction and success of our municipality. Recognizing their integral contribution to this salary adjustment does not only validate their hard work, but also ensures that we can attract and retain qualified individuals capable of driving progress. In closing, I extend my sincere gratitude to the Senate Fiscal Affairs Committee Chair, their member, for your attention and consideration. I hope that you will entertain the municipality's requests and concerns, including these pressing issues, in order to construct a fair and effective 2024 budget. Together, we can work towards building a stronger and more prosperous community for our residents. Thank you for your time, and I'm available to answer questions and concerns. And also with me sitting to my right is our Chief of Staff, Mr. Alan Perez, who would assist in answering any of your questions.
Thank you, Mayor Don, and welcome, Mr. Perez. Mayor, earlier you mentioned that 96 employees are you currently have 96 employees, correct?
124.
124. Do you know why the House had added an additional 27? Do you know anything about that amendment?
But I believe some of those source of funds that was derived from, I believe, is from defense and DPS, if you looked at it, because they just put $1 and took the salary for those vacant positions.
So the 688 will be used to fund the additional 27 that they're proposing, it seems.
Yes.
So out of the 124, what's the 96? You mentioned two numbers.
Yeah.
Right. So we have 124 FTEs, but the House version added 700,000 or 600,000, and then they basically funded 27 FTEs. So that's the difference.
Because in one of their
Because you got approved for 135.
FTs.
Oh, 162 now. That's 162.
But on that
But-
FTE, the FTE, they have already identified the FTEs, and then they allocated those funds.
Okay.
Because I just saw that last week. When
So
Mr.
in the
Pierce.
23 budget, we had in the 23 budget we had 125 FTEs funded under the general fund and 10 under the ARPA. So when the revised came in, the 10 from the ARPA were taken off. So that's why our base is 125. But they didn't change the FTE number.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how much would you need to cover the 96?
So $2 million.
Do you have a listing of those employees?
Yeah, we can give you a listing of employees.
And I know the House had mentioned discussions with ARPA. Your ARPA balance is how much if of that is reserved for personnel, if any, for fiscal year 24?
So of the 2.5 million balance that we have today, we have reserved 1,089,000 for the existing local employees.
So would that take care of the 2 million that you need for the 96?
That money's paying for the existing local employees. You shift that over, then the local employees won't be kept on. There'll be no funding for them.
Well, because, okay, so right now we have 124.
Correct.
Of the 124, 27 is covered by this 688.
Correct.
Correct. So the 96 that you have remaining is your local.
So, Chairman, there's two distinct employment in Tinian. One is the municipal employees. That's the 1.89. That's going to cover all the way this fiscal year and all the way to the end of ARPA. So we have 29 municipal employees, not cinema government employees, but our municipal employees.
29 in addition to the 124.
No, 125.
I recognize Senator King Neighbors.
Thank you. Thank you, Mayor and Chief, for being here today. Just to clarify some of this, of the local employees, what do they consist of, or what role do they play within the mayor's office?
So we have like 7 that are the senior staff and project grants management team. So that's the heart of the mayor's office. And then the other ones, oh yeah, we have the municipal treasury employees within that group. And then I think the other ones will probably be assigned to different department agencies. Yeah, so different divisions or departments within the municipality.
So would it be safe to say those would be like the MOUs?
Correct. Yes.
Thank you, Senator Senator Carl. So what is the understanding with this 29 ARPA employees? Their contract ends December 2024 or 23? Or the 29 ARPA employees right now?
Right.
The understanding is that they only have up until the end of ARPA, and
Correct.
that's it.
And then we would have to find a different funding source.
Okay. Your request for utilities, I have it down as 458 for next fiscal year. Are you reserving some of your ARPA funds now to cover that? Is that the understanding?
No, we are not.
So none of your
None.
ARPA funds are
It's
set aside
allocated
for,
utilities, that's correct. But we're spending it, but it's not allocated. So in our allocation from the 2.5 million, payment to utilities is not part of the allocation. However, when any of the departments that have prepaid meters come to ask us to pay it, then we pay it.
Okay, can we break down that 2.5 million in ARPA? So we have 1,089,000 for personnel. What's the remaining to 1.4?
Okay. So we have 1.089 for personnel. Then we have 215,000 for office rentals. We're covering the office rentals for all the departments, including the mayor's office. We have 40,000 for the guest house vehicles, the 2 vans. That's a contractual agreement. We have 66,000 set aside for our professional service contract. We have 89,000 set aside for our ground maintenance contracts. And then we have 166,000 that has been set aside for our encumbered projects that have already started, issued PO. Case in point, the warehouse that we're almost ready to ribbon cut. A big chunk of that 166 will be the final payment for that one. And then the last one we have identified, which is the questionable one, is 172 for the utilities. This was something that the mayor's office sent into finance that was kicked back. So it is in our allocation just in the event that finance stipend doesn't pay it. We're going to eventually have to step in and pay it.
So the 172 is for arrears.
That's correct, yes. So after all those, the balance comes out to 658. So out of that 658, we're allocating 500. So the ones that we just mentioned, those are encumbrances. Now in terms of the allocation, we've set aside 500 for operations. So the department's operations, mayor's office operations. And then the balance of 60,000, we're allocating that to our annual festivals, which is insufficient, but that's all that's left in the event the hot funds are not reinstated.
Sorry, can you just repeat the last 2 figures? What is
The
that?
last 2 figures was 500,000 for operations for the entire municipality, since we don't have operations budgeted in 23, and the assumption that they might not be budgeted in 24. And then 60,000 for the annual festivals, with the assumption that the hot funds might still be suspended. So after just the encumbrances, the amount that has not been encumbered would be 658,000.
Recognize Senator Jude.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good afternoon, everyone. Mr. Mayor, can you, just for the purpose of consistency and what is the normal operations here on Tinian, and for those that are unaware of the process, if you look at the function of the mayor in the respective islands, primarily Luta and Tinian, they practically kind of like they act as a governor for all the agencies and all the concerns of the respective municipalities. So you can see the broad responsibility, irrespective whether it's a line agency under Department of Public Safety, DFEMS, DLNR, DPW, what have you. At the end of the day, it's the municipality that would foot that bill. Typically, notwithstanding the allocation that we give the line agencies, I guarantee you, and Mayor can attest to this, that it all boils back to the municipality, the mayor himself. So on a typical day, maybe Mayor or Mr. Perez, can you just share a thing or two about what the value of having these 100 and some employees to tend to responsibility of line agencies, to tend to public programs that are out there in the community, to tend to the influx of transient populations here with the inclusion of the new construction, to responding to storms or what have you. What is the function of the 124? How do they react to these things, and how do you use them? Do we have enough employees under the line agencies to take care of this?
So let me use one example. The hospital or the PSS. So we have multiple MOUs assigned to the school. We have Power Pro and some maintenance, and those folks that go there and participate and be a part of PSS. It's not only for them to fill in a gap that's not there, or the agency has not fulfilled that position for so many reasons. No, uh, we send those folks there to help them, but at the same time, the whole intent of this MOU is to have them experience, no, so that they can have an experience. So then the opportunity, a lot of these folks are have no experience background especially for PSS, which they always look after for higher education and all the stuff. But at least start them off working at PSS. We had people that have gone through PSS and have been in PSS since 8 years, 7 years, and when they up to have a position vacant, they they apply for those positions and they become very well qualified now for so many years working there, and they know how this person works, and the the attitude, and how willing to take the extra step. So they hire them. So it's not just for to fill in the gap, but also to prepare them in case there's future job opportunity. And so as every other departments, uh, we've had one of our workers who used to work for NMC. We assigned her there. She was very helpful, and then she started taking her GED. She graduated GED, then moved on. She uh, taking NMC. She graduated with an AA, and then now I believe she's about to work in PSS. And so it's just not filling the gap. No, these are really setting up our workforce to gain the opportunity, just an opportunity for them to start somewhere, because a lot of these government positions are required either degree or experience, and some of our folks don't have that, and at the same time don't have the time not to go and take the GED. I make sure that when there's a GED opportunity, we look after our employees that are not graduated, and we push them to take the GEDs. And the day-to-day operation is very, for my office, Senator. Maybe this is not good to say, but even with this facility, we come here and assist when there was a need from the Chief Justice to help them paint this building. We paint this building. All staff from our office. Uh, we do a monthly cleaning on this facility, and it's not that no, it's that's the way we see things. We we feel that we don't have a division. We don't have your different branch of the government. Your uh, an line, not a line department. You're an agency outside. You know, we try to take care of everybody because we're all in this community. This not belong to a different part of the government. You're and I am just gonna take care of my department. We have staff at Tinian Health Center. We maintain Tinian Health Centers, uh, uh, bush carding and mowing when the septic overflows. I don't wait for the director to get approval first before he can get the honey wagon, because that's the way it is. They don't have budget for those things. So I'm not gonna wait to the CEO in Saipan approves for him to go and get a $200 honey wagon to suck out the no. We move us to take care make sure that we're pushing out service that it's safe, no, and good for the people. Uh, we maintain when MVA was hit hard with the budget. They only had like two staff. We used to share the sites, but when that thing happened, lucky we have a mayor's office staff, and we pushed through. Lucky ARPA was there also, and all the sites were maintained. Uh, uh, 40% of the sites. So I think they clean 40%. The rest I clean. And some of these operational costs, when it's rainy season, we cannot catch up. So we contract these sites on a month to month, and then when it's dry, we terminate the contract and wait until our pavilions are maintained. I'm proud to say this the best in the Commonwealth. Our parks, our beach, they're well maintained. Now, do we abandon those kind of commitment to our partners, the tourists that have come out here and do good reviews to our island and say, Tinian is a nice place and I want to come back. And and the next time they come around, we have little trash and overgrown, unmaintained. We cannot even turn on the pavilion because there's no utility to pay the power. Those kind of things we don't want to go through that. As a matter of fact, I am about to launch to open the park ranger, and these folks are supposed to start since May. But I keep holding it back. This park ranger are in charge to all the facilities on our parks and our beach, and at the same time, not only to make sure that they're cleaning, but also to kind of make some revenue because I think uh, we're so used to having people just go down there, and they're very lucky that and people would say from different parts of the world, "Oh, this is for free." Can't believe that this is you go to Guam, you go to Saipan, you pick up a tent on Beach Road, you pay a tent that has no water, no power, and you're gonna use the restroom go across the beach road to a hotel to use. But here we have everything, and that's what I'm trying to do. So it sustain itself. Hopefully, be able to pay the power and water for all these things that we push out. But yes, we do come out with innovative things, programs, and push out to our people. At this point of time, we're in kind of uh, like sample for the next 2 months, 3 months, and see where we can either we proceed forward. If we're financially sound to move forward, then we do it. If not, then we'll push back uh, these initiatives that we have. And Alan, maybe you can say some of the other stuff.
So I think the mayor pretty much touched on most of it, but the bottom line is we help out all the departments, all the agencies, and in many cases we take the heavy load, especially with ground maintenance, uh, all the way up to the Northfield, all the way in areas, that's outside of the main section. Times come around, we have to clean that, and those are very, very expensive undertakings. So, but like the mayor said, we have people in PSS, we have people in THC, MVA. I mean, we assist with all. Now, for the mayor's office, if I'm not mistaken, I think we got 21 divisions just under our roof, and that takes care of all of the other stuff, like you mentioned in the speech: the library, the youth center, the slaughterhouse, the dog control, and that's got a whole list of different divisions that we have under the mayor's office.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I owe you back now.
Thank you, Senator Jude. I recognize Senator Mendiola.
Thank you, Chair. Mayor, sounds like, so giving your statement about your responsibilities or roles and responsibility, I was just looking at the Constitution. Everything in the Constitution, under the local government, the mayor shall, the mayor shall, the mayor shall. So bottom line, you pretty much administer governments or services for the municipality of Tinian. So, or you lose some of this funding per.
So I think the biggest issue you have right now is as the divert ramps up. Right now, we're only in phase one. They're just moving ground. But once they start getting to actual construction, vertical construction, then our biggest issue that we're having is with the solid waste. So I don't know if DPW is here, how many people we even have working for solid waste, because we don't have control of the solid waste funds. The impact that's going to have on all of our permitted sites, including the landfill that's not permitted, we already anticipate that that's going to be a major effect, one that we do not have an answer for right now. So that would be initially the biggest issue. The second issue, of course, is all of the stuff coming in. We've mentioned this a million times in terms of equipping Fish and Wildlife with a dog, here on Tinian. We don't have that. I think when Black brings stuff in, they have to fly the people in from Saipan. It's just very inconvenient. All of this stuff is coming into Tinian. I mean, it just doesn't make any sense that aspect wouldn't be funded. So those are probably the most immediate impact. But eventually, everything will be either directly or indirectly impacted, just because now we have a growing economy. We got a lot of support services. So even though you just say divert, Triple J is building up, a lot of other businesses coming in, a lot of construction companies are coming in. Obviously, that's going to tax DPS more in terms of their parole, and it just, will just grow from there.
Senator Alan mentioned about the solid waste. So under the solid waste on the House version, there's one employee that they didn't fund them for this 2024. So how? So solid waste used to have 8 employees, if I'm not mistaken. 8 employees. Now they're down to 4. So out of the 4, you're gonna take out 1. I do not, and that's why I kept on insisting that we insert provisions in the budget, because we've tried it twice to have the authority, the expenditure authority of the Secretary of Public Works rendered to. It doesn't have to be me. Even the department head here in Tinian should be able to determine what they need for the salary programs that we have here. Because there's nothing worse than to have somebody making decisions who has never set foot here or has been here, but with all of this ramping of these projects that's happening, in 2 days, with what the trash they have, the waste that they have, they can cover the dump if we don't monitor them. And EPA has given a direction, administrative requirement for public works to follow as to how many staff do you need: manager, assistant manager, and operator, flagman, and safety officer. All of these are prescribed under the EPA because we are a non-compliant dump. We are being cited. We're violating. But one of the terms of us to continue to go through this is they have to follow the administrative orders. But they just told the guy that you're not going to work anymore. So now it's down to 3, I guess. And we have 2 sites. We have a green waste site, and we have a municipal dump. And we're trying to catch up, and we're trying to open, just same as we're trying to open up our landfill. But when you continue to show EPA of your disregard of how can we fully fund you when you're not even taking care of what you have now, what problems you have now? So I'm glad Alan mentioned that, and we have a big challenge and that's why I asked that uh, the Secretary of Public Works should not be in control of the expenditure for the municipality of Tinian and Roda, because believe me, I don't know how many tires are bought already, and those tires are not cheap. Those tires are for 14 to 15 to 1600 a piece, and when we ask them, it, the front end loader is down for 6 months for a tire, and we can't push the dump. Our bulldozer has been down. It's overheating. They're the expenditure of that. But I spend. I just had it quote for the excavator, the bulldozer, and the front end loader. It's going to cost me 40 grand, and I'm going to spend it out of the ARPA. Those guys don't want to pay for it from the central. I'll pay for it. Yeah, I have the money. I'll pay for it. I'm not going to hold back anything that Tinian needs because somebody up there don't want to listen to what we're saying down here.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Mayor. Sounds like solid waste, more MOUs. If I understand this correctly, just like Rhoda, the mayor's office practically just fills in every gap there is in the municipality. And I think what's important out of some of your statement is that it's kind of like you're developing your own workforce here. As you stated, you MOU some of your staff to, for example, NMC without a high school diploma, now graduated, now an associate's degree, and then now returning that back to the community and having a more professional workforce. So I applaud you for that, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Just a few follow-up before I pass it on to other members. Earlier you mentioned part of your ARPA funds will be used to cover 500,000 of your ops. And just thinking about trying to meet to where we can even fund personnel, is that something that you can give up to fund to try to bring down that 2 million that's needed to cover the rest of your personnel? Under the understanding that we're not giving any operational funds to any entity throughout the Commonwealth, is that something that can be traded off? That's something that might be difficult, but if we address this utility situation, Rhoda's in the same boat. Every other agency is in that same boat of who is going to pay for utilities. And there's discussions on extending the expenditure authority to the governor to address these shortfalls, such as utilities. So we take some of that pressure away from the municipalities, like utilities, power and water. Can the Tinian municipality find other sources of fundings to take care of operations, i.e. poker fees or any other locally tax collected locally? That's one area where I see maybe we could bring that 2 million figure down. The other expenses, that's something that I can agree with the mayor, the you mayor on, is the need for your office rentals. That has been an issue in the past. I understand that what's the progress of the civic center that was proposed to be the site to house all your agencies? The rest I can agree on that it's something that is very much needed here. But when you talk about 500,000, 500,000, that's something that could cover several personnel. So is that something that can be traded off in trying to bring that figure down? Because in essence, just looking at the House proposal and then what the Senate's going to have to do is personnel is the one priority we're all trying to protect. And there's nowhere else we can cut in the Commonwealth. There may be a few here and there, the earmarks, like you mentioned. I know you mentioned bringing back the hot tax, but if we do that, then that's going to further cut from all personnel. And so right now, the budget takes care of all personnel at 72 hours, with the exception of the legislature and the judiciary. But as I've mentioned before this meeting, that we've already considered and have calculated what the reduction in the judiciary and the legislature will look like in this common goal of trying to be consistent and equal amongst the executive branch. Well, you don't have to answer that now, but that's something that if that could be considered, then that would help the committee come closer to that, what would be 1.5 remaining, if we can address that. That's all I have for now to consider. Any other members? I recognize the Vice Chair, Senator McLaughlin.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you again, Mayor, and your Chief of Staff for being here. Just some clarifying questions. So, your Chief of Staff has stated earlier that as of today, there is a balance of $2.5 million in ARPA. And out of that, you will allocate $1,089,000 for the 29 FTEs that was created through ARPA, correct?
These FTEs have been on board for many administrations, many years.
Okay,
So these are not
prior
newly
to-
created
Oh,
FTEs,
okay.
right?
So, okay.
And Senator, these FTs, when we used to have IPI, and then even as far as when we started our casino, these were created because some of these like the municipal treasurers, since the inception of our initiative, we created that office. The municipal scholarship, which is a municipal program, we address that with make sure that we provide a staff for that
Got it. So the 29 FTEs were created prior to
prior to our
ARPA. But these 29 FTEs are on top of the 125 FTEs.
Yes.
Got it. And so are these 29 FTEs critical and essential FTEs that the municipality must keep?
So we moved. We have the core. The core, the most critical part is these employees that are the management team. So this group of staff is the ones that push out projects, go out and get grants, push for grants, do what's this community designs for the municipality. These are staff that we're not just doing stuff for today. These are people that are looking out 5-10 year programs that we are pushing with the leadership that we've always discussed these issues, and they're the steering of our municipality as we move forward on a lot of these things, and to the point that they are trying to be creative as to how do we revenue. So I'll just throw out one. So Alan, we've discussed this and we said, and with the leaderships, okay. So we haven't put a trigger, but I wanna say that we're not just, we don't want to just take money, get money. We want to make money to be sustainable. So we wanted to build two more of those parlor buildings, 40 by 80. They cost at around 160, almost 170 a piece. And then set it up down there by the dock, one of our old CUC lot, rent it out. There are people that are looking for spaces, and they're willing to pay 5,000 a month. So do the numbers, 5,000 times 12, you almost you're halfway, more than halfway, taking back your 165. Your investment come back fast, and at the same time, maybe some of this building will push out some of these rentals from our government office. At the meantime, while we're trying to figure out how do we push out from PA our civic center, because it's been there, it's been 4 years, and we keep on telling them, okay, so where's the product? Where's the product? And I'm afraid at some point of time, FEMA will say, okay, that money does not belong to you anymore because you're not spending it, you're not moving. And that's what I'm afraid. We might lose a potentially close to $9 million of civic center. And what I'm trying to say, Senator, is we not only wanna employ our people for the sake of employing, but to encourage them to do a lot to give back to the community and to think of innovative ways for us to be self-sustainable, and we look down the future. We want to change all of our streetlights to solar, but unfortunately CUC don't want to do that. But yeah, because if we change that to solar, they're going to lose money. Guess what? They're going to lose money. They're going to start firing people because they can afford to pay people, right, Anna? He sits at the board, so I guess.
Thank you, Mayor, for that clarification. I guess where I'm going with this, obviously, you have stressed the importance and how critical these FTEs are to the municipality. And the concern is, yes, they are covered, funded by ARPA at this point in time, right? But when 2025 comes around and we run out of ARPA, where are we going to look for funding for that, and what kind of impact would that have on your municipality, especially because we do see the growth, right? And with growth, there's a increase in cost to everything. And so I know that's still quite a ways down, but that's just something to consider, from where we stand right now, especially with our financial condition that we are experiencing in the CNMI. And I just thought I'd throw that out there to start tinkering about it. And
So actually, we have addressed that for at least a year ago. The core team in the mayor's office, funded under the local side, there's 7 that cannot be let go. Because if you did, the FEMA projects on Tinian would not happen. The grants that we get, the MapTap EIC from OIA, those grants wouldn't be written. So this is the immediate core, and then you have the municipal treasury. So those 11 are the heart of the mayor's office. So we have looked at that many times. Now, we're also very, very creative. So in the event that, like, let's say, for example, you have the FEMA projects and our team works on the FEMA projects, if we could charge back to the Cat Z, then we do that. Right now, small, but and anytime we have a grant that we actively manage and we get the indirect cost, then we charge back on that too. It doesn't pay for all of them, but it just pushes them a little further. If the time comes when we don't have any more ARPA funds, which will happen, then we sit down with the leadership and we figure out the priorities. So you've talked about the poker fees. Now, right now, the poker fees are mostly used for scholarships and the gaming commission. Once the gaming commission gets on board, then my recommendation to the leadership would switch that or shift that to take care of at least those initial 11 to make sure that the mayor's office could continue. So we actually do financial projections years in advance. We take it down to the very last dollar. I've been doing this for a long time, so I could foresee exactly the situation, fiscal years in the future.
thank you for that.
And then, like the mayor said, if the new casino starts, then the funding source for the gaming commission will be taken care of. So then, anything that we give to the casino now through our local funds will be then shifted back, to take care of the local employees.
Thank you for that. I yield.
Thank you. Recognize Senator Call.
Thank you, Chair. Mayor or Chief, if you could just kind of brief the committee on some of the measures that you guys and the leadership has taken with regards to the 3.6 that was originally booked under 604, and some of the creative ways that we've tried to maximize those funds prior to them being shifted over to 602. If you could expound on that, part A. And part B, after we switched over to 602, we had about $3.1 million. If you could explain to the committee how you've drawn down on those funds since then, and how quickly on a timeline we're looking at that we went from 3.6 to the 2.1 that we're looking at now.
Okay. So I think most of us know that part of the CNMI ARPA spending plan allocated money for 604. So initially, the 3.6 million was under 604. And it should also be noted that the reason why it was 3.6 million, because about 2.4 million, 2.6 million was actually a reimbursement from CIP funds that were used by Saipan for the Puerto Rico dump, the closure of the Puerto Rico dump, which then this was the reimbursement. Okay, so we got 604 money, we got about 3.6 million. We were told at that time then to put together a delegation resolution identifying the projects. So we identified the projects and we allocated the entire 3.6 million. We started in on the projects because we are incredibly efficient. We were able to move the projects fast. We initially spent $600,000 up until April of this year. At that time is when we were approaching the legislature, approaching the administration to figure out if there was any way of redirecting the funds or changing the spending plan. At that time, we were told that the funds were incorrectly booked under 604 and they were 602 funds. So once they became 602 funds, then we had to take a look at, our local employees, how we would be able to secure the local employees. But at the same time, the revised budget deliberations, where I guess Rhoda and Tinian were going to get some operating funds, even though it was small, we went ahead and took the Tinian operating funds out because we were supposed to cover it. All right. So then we start paying the Tinian operating funds for all the departments, all the municipality, mayor's office, what have you. At that time, we sent into the Fiscal Affairs Committee that we needed about $800,000 a year, and that was only for the most critical, the rentals, the communications, the gas, and so on and so forth. So then once that was passed, now all of a sudden you start paying for all the expenses. The most immediate ones, of course, were rentals. There are contractual obligations out there, and then all of a sudden they just shut the door. So we had to step in. So we pay finance, we pay labor, pay the mayor's office. We had to take care of the rentals. We also have to take care of our guest house, which is a pretty big cost. And then so after that, we took a look at the funds, what's left over, and then we have to figure out how to do the proper allocation to ensure the contractual obligations. So did I answer everything?
And Senator, you heard what he said? Rentals for Department of Finance here in Tinian, that the Department of Finance in Saipan don't want to pay. How is that? We're collecting revenue over here, but you don't want to pay your office. This is coming from the secretary, and the municipality have to step in to pay. Unbelievable.
Thank you for that. You're back, Jeff.
Thank you. One maybe recommendation or consideration that maybe can be looked at is, it seems like you've lost quite a few police officers and fire personnel, and I think it's much, I hate to say easier, but have you considered trying to transition some of the municipal employees to fill these positions? That way, at least that could probably lessen the burden on the municipality and kind of reduce that obligation under personnel. Thinking what's going to happen after when ARPA runs out and how to carry on some of these employees. I mean, you're talking about close to 550,000 in personnel for these vacant positions.
Right. So the way we analyze the House version is the governor's version funded the vacant FTEs for both DFEMS and DPS. And I'm sure they're going to bring it up during their budget testimonies. I think 6 over there at DFEMS and DPS is a lot. Obviously, the situation you're going to have is, I don't think we right now have any MOUs over there, and MOUs cannot serve in the law enforcement capacity. So most of the time they're administrative. And then unless they go over there administrative, then we find a way to get them through the cadet training or whatever that process is for them to then be able to qualify for those positions. So unfortunately, I don't think we have the ability to take an MOU and put them as an officer.
I think you do.
Do we?
That's what Rhoda does. The MOU. Right
As
now we
officers?
have right now we have customs officers that are MOU'd. They're being funded under the mayor's office. And then come the following fiscal year, they kind of budget them in. I think that could address, and so if
But does
you
that
start
also-
that transition of getting your MOUs certified or sworn in, then we can kind of transition them to fill these positions. next
Is that also
fiscal
the
year.
case with DPS and DFEMS?
Mr. Chair,
I don't know.
just to clarify for state of during the academy, or you can MOU employee granted that they go through the academy and get certified. But if there's no academy, we can't MOU any mayor staff without the certification of having gone through.
Right, and I
academy.
think
So just wanted to
these, I
clarify.
think this question is much more appropriate for DPS, but under the notion that if the mayor funds these MOUs while they're in training, then we can, because if these positions are left open technically, then we can kind of transition them to DPS personnel. But that would take, kind of address having to reduce your obligations in the municipality come next fiscal year when ARPA runs out.
So, Mr. Chairman, if I may, and maybe we'll talk more on DPS side when it comes to that, because there's what do you say, way of running their department, and they're kind of like a different creature from a lot of these other departments where they're first of all they're non-standard, and then second they get paid more hours than the other departments do. And you're correct. We'll shed some lights on how DPS Tinian operates their overtime. How do they address their overtime and their lack of fuel?
Thank you. I recognize Senator Mendiola.
So on the same line of statement, Mr. Mayor, there is a program called WIA, and something to be mindful of. It's really a federal program, and the good thing about WIA is really you get WIA to fund everything up front. The problem is that, of course, we still have to try and reassure the FTE a year out or 6 months out or whatever the case may be. So given our financial situation, that's really not ideal, but still a avenue for us to get employees in. So I just wanted to say that for the record. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any other members?
Senator, and I want to touch a little bit. Not only we have OVR employees, and these are special kids, that have zero experience, and they want to. A lot of these parents, they want their sons and daughter to be able to be brought out to the community, especially working for the government, and that's kind of inspire them. No, special the no. Okay, son, now you're gonna work for the mayor's office. I'll tell you, I had the opportunity to hire two from OVR, and OVR sometimes they really want to help these kids, but at the tail end, I know I'm gonna get shafted. I know when I see one, but that's beside the point. The kid is willing to come on board and be exposed out there, and to relate and to transition into this open community, and the feeling of that is good for me, and I don't care if they don't pay me back my money. My money is well worth spent on this kid who wants to go out there and explore, not only facing the four walls of the house or just sitting down playing Tetris or whatever. He wants to bring him out and expose him that there is such thing as, one of them is working at the dog control. He asked, he was one of those ARPAs that get released, and he asked, Mr. Mayor, I love my job. He personally came to me. So when I see that, a person who has that kind of special, Mr. Mayor, I love my job. I want to go back and work. Please hire me. Please take me back. And he's a good worker. He's a good worker based on the supervision on what I see. So yeah, hire. OVR came, we're going to, no more OVR. Give me another one. Give me another special kid that wants to work. But not this one. He's already full-time working for the mayor. So the program went through. I think it worked. He despite less than a year, but I see the interest. So yeah, we and we as one of them. But the tail end of awareness is you gotta guarantee the FT, and that's where you guys come in to assure us that we'll take care of them, and then at the end of the day, at the end of this 1 year, we need the FT, and that's pretty hard. especially now with what we're doing right now. The other one is this morning we went to Commerce Skill Up Cinema. That's a good program, and I encourage our community, especially our business partners, to come up. Send your staff there, push them to imagine 50% paid by the federal. 50%. You're getting 24,000. 12,000 comes from these guys. Well, you only spend 12,000 and you pay reasonable salary, no? But yeah, we try to be innovative and encourage our people to participate. I mean,
Recognize Senator Jude.
Yeah, just for the operational side, I think this is probably Alan. Maybe you can articulate more. So for utilities, I know the last couple of years it's been the administration, right? So say for example those prepaid, do we ask them to pay for, let's say for example, finance, or does the payment come on time, or I mean it's pretty fluid with paying CUC, or we.
So what we did was, when they were paying on time, we asked our departments to try and pay in, apply in advance so we could get that cushion, which some of the departments did. When with prepaids, if it gets close to the deadline, like DPS, one time I got a report 12 days left, then we have no choice but to step in. I mean, it'll probably take 12 days to convince finance to pay it, if not more. By that time, DPS will, have no power. So there was a time when the prepaids were taken care of by Department of Finance and Saipan, and they were, they paid. But as of today, we take care of the prepaids. We take care of everything, actually. No,
Okay.
well, let me clarify that. We are asked to take care of everything. We haven't paid it. Yeah. So we're holding everything until we figure out whether there's any other source from the central government to pay the utilities.
Okay, I just asked that for for our reference as we continue to deliberate the budget. Thank you. Are you back?
Thank you. If there's nothing else from the members, I'd just like to close with just a few closing thoughts. So I guess one thing that we're going to expect from you is the listing of the 96 personnel and how much they're going to need.
Chairman, and if I would like to say also, before you relieve me, please put in your mind, okay, now we want a dialogue. We want to continue the dialogue with the mayor's office in particular. But at the same time, I have don't kulukuruson no by totota sa usang nga sa staff ni na parafazu na para tavan malak sa pabilyon parafazu pa tavan malak sa guma parafazu pa na patamun ito itsalan zaman niya lang totota go malago so mina make sure and I will do anything in my power na will make sure na staff man ma-take care of nila sa profit tama-tama na loko zangim mantay tsutsu. I want to avoid that. Lo within the reasonableness of also the administration, like sa tisinya para on trata tagini ni municipal Tinian. I am.
And that was the point I was trying to make, is that, it'll be up to us to figure out how utilities will be taken care of. But at the same token, funds that were set aside for other projects or operations, that's something that we may have to sacrifice to save jobs, right? And that's essentially what we're trying to get at, is how do we come to an agreement to meet the 2 million that Tinian is asking for? Because right now, based on the allocation, we're strapped. Currently all employees were addressed. Now the only thing that we need to figure out is these additional employees from Tinian, and in order to get to the 2 million, some considerations will have to be made in terms of some of the funds that are set aside for some projects that could be either put on hold and addressed at a later time while we try to address personnel needs. And so with that, thank you both for your time. If there's anything that we missed, or if there's something that you, I guess, had failed to mention or would like to share with the committee at a later time, please feel free to reach out.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank
Chair,
you.
and,
You are
we'll
hereby
continue.
excused, and at this time, we'll take a 3-minute recess to allow the next entity to get settled. We had just concluded the hearing with the mayor. Before we begin, and my apologies to staff assisting the committee, but just to recognize him, we have our IT, Jonathan Diaz, our Sergeant at Arms, Ben Terlahi, our counsel, Joe Bermudez, our legislative assistant, Jolene Tagovall, and fiscal analyst, Dave Demopon. And up next, we have the 19th Rota Municipal Council. Tinian Municipal Council, my apologies. The TMC requested a budget of $283,092. The governor had proposed $184,000. So it's close to 100,000 that wasn't addressed, and these are primarily for operations. And so the only thing that was addressed was the operations at 90%. But it looks like all personnel positions were kept. It doesn't look like the House had reduced any of Tinian's personnel budget despite having one vacant position. But maybe that can be clarified if that position is still vacant. Some of the big ticket item on the requests consists of fuel at 15,000, tools and equipments at 5,000, operational supplies 10,000, and travel expenses at 10. And so up next, before us, we have the chairman for Tinian Municipal Council, along with his team. And so at this time, I hand the floor over to Council Chairman Santos.
Thank you, Chairman Magnolia. For the and welcome, Tinian members. Good afternoon. The mission of the Tinian Municipal Council is to influence public policy decisions at the local and state levels of government and to strengthen the ability of the municipal council government to better serve its people. To achieve these goals of securing a better quality life for every resident of Tinian, as well as the overall goal of securing the economic self-sufficiency of our island, the 19th Tinian Municipal Council must ensure that social programs such as community beautification programs, youth development programs, cultural programs, and other developmental programs, along with duties mandated by law. The Tinian Municipal Council has supported the community of Tinian in various community programs, such as the Tinian Municipal Scholarship, cultural youth programs, and competitions statewide, beautification projects, and the promotion of Tinian's beauty and economic vitality. The Tinian Municipal Council is taking up bus stop maintenance for both Tinian High School and Tinian Elementary, for the villages of San Jose, Subdivision, Marpu Heights 2, Marpu Valley, and Carolina sites. There are 14 bus stops and one Little League baseball field that are currently being maintained by one community worker as the ground maintenance, who is an MOU from the Office of the Mayor of Tinian and Naguiguan. Also on October 4th, 2021, the Tinian Municipal Council started a transit service. The Tinian Transit currently provides transportation services to the elderly and people with disabilities in our community. We aim to expand services to the general public in the future. The Municipal Council also assists other departments with beautification projects, programs, events, and community sports activities. The Tinian Municipal Council consists of 3 council members, the chairman, vice chairman, and the secretary. The structure and services of the Municipal Council consists of 3 divisions: the legislative, administration, and project maintenance. Under the legislative, we have the council clerk. Under the administration, we have the executive director and administrative officer. Under the projects and maintenance, we have 4 community workers. And just to clarify, and the 7 position has been filled. So we have a total of 7 FTEs under the Tinian Municipal Council. The budget reflects the council's continuing effort to streamline operation and maximize resources available to provide services to the people of Tinian. To this end, our priorities for fiscal 2024 are to the Tinian Municipal Council will continue to maintain bus stops, the Little League baseball field, and support various community programs and beautification project and the promotion of Tinian's beauty and economic. To continue to have funding for professional service such as consultation fees and legal fees. Professional fees are an integral aspect for the council to review and consult in all local matters. Our office still works on beautification of our islands, maintenance of bus stops, maintenance of Little League baseball field, assisting maintenance when requested, and office errands. The Tinian Municipal Council will continue the Tinian Transit in providing services to the elderly and people with disabilities in our community. We do have a vehicle that was purchased 2 years ago. But with that, it cannot be used outside the field area due to a tow inch. There's no tow inch attached to it. So we can put a trailer or transport any of the riding mowers. With that said, it is clear that the governor's proposal and the House version for operational expenditures for activity or reprogram or programs has been zeroed out. And in order for us, we are in need of these expenditures in order to provide service to the public. And without funding, our people cannot be served accordingly. And hope that we can reconsider at least operations for the Tinian Municipal Council. And now I'd like to answer any question that you might have to the best of my ability. And I also have to my right, Executive Director Eric Regis.
Thank you, Chairman Santos. You're currently in 2022. Looks like you had an office space. Is that still the case now?
We currently do not have any office space. We got evicted in late February.
And
We
where
were
are you housed
outstanding
now?
for 6 months.
And where are you currently?
We are
based?
currently sharing office space over the DNR office in Marple Valley.
The transit service that you provide, is this from quota?
The transit van was given to the mayor's office, was MOU to the mayor's office, and we took that opportunity and we asked the mayor's office to if they can MOU the van to the Tinian Municipal Council to start this program.
Okay. But you don't receive any
We don't
funds
receive any
from
funds from
quota?
CODA.
Okay. I think, did I hear this right? You had one MOU that does all these cleaning sites.
Yes.
What duties does your other community workers have that you need this one MOU to address these?
Before our positions are filled, we only had one MOU. Before the other positions were filled, we had a clerk, the director, and an admin officer, and one bus driver, a transit driver. And previously, we have filled all 4 positions.
Okay.
And with
And
that
now you
one-
have the 4
Yes.
filled positions.
Yes.
Okay. Have you received any funding support from the mayor of Tinian?
Yes, indeed, we did multiple times. He actually was grateful enough to pay for our rental that was 6 months behind. He has provided other fundings to the municipal council whenever we ask.
How much would you say has the mayor assisted with the council's operations in the current fiscal year?
Current fiscal year was for the office rental.
Just the past due, but in terms of fuel or
Fuel, we use
operational
fuel from
supplies.
other appropriation from the poker fees that is appropriated to the council. That's what we use for operations.
Okay. So what source of funding are you using for any travel expenses?
This time none. We are zero.
And then this professional service at 8,000, what is that for?
It's for legal counsel. Prior to this budget, we were budgeted for professional services that we used up in 2020 all the way to 2022.
Thank you. Just planning for if ever, if the committee is able to identify any additional funds for operations, will it work well if we give the mayor the whole figure and then council goes through the mayor for any funding needs? Is that something that can be agreed upon, or?
Is the mayor here?
I mean, I'm just saying, it's kind of hard to identify an amount
Yes, yes.
with the little that we may have. And so is it a challenge to try to get some support if all funds were directed to the mayor to address these needs, the municipal's needs?
Director, since you're
Is the mayor here? Oh. Sorry, Honorable Chairman, thank you guys so much for having us here. Yes and no. Can we work with the mayor's office? Absolutely, he's always there to assist the Tinian Municipal Council whenever in need. But we preferably would just like to be the ones to basically manage and deal with our own budget, since we are a separate entity, and for that we do get many different calls from various people in the public and communities, private or public, into the council's office, and we do what we can with what we got. But to answer your question, we would preferably like to, if we can just have it in our account. If that doesn't happen, then eventually we'll just streamline to the honorable mayor.
I understand. Can I ask, is the Tinian Casino established in a way where the council, how do I say this, adopt their budget? Because I know with Rhoda, any fees would have to get approved by the council. Is that something that happens here?
no,
Or just go straight to the delegation? Is that how
it goes through delegation.
Okay. Any other members? I recognize Senator Carl.
No, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Chairman and Director, for making the time to be here today. I really appreciate it. A couple of quick questions with regards to the vehicle, the CODA vehicle. You said CODA supplied the vehicle, but no other supporting funds were available. So that's to include, I'm assuming, fuel, maintenance of the vehicle, driver, all of those costs are shouldered by the council.
That is correct. We shouldered all the costs since we had the vehicle. When we started back in 2021, this was the $30,000 that was appropriated from the local funds.
From the delegation.
We're still using that funds up until now, but we are getting there. Right now, the transit is suspended due to mechanical problems. Parts are in order right now at this time, but still those stuffs are coming out of that budget to get it repaired.
So, how many days a week do you guys operate? If when it's back online or when you're operational, how many days a week is that vehicle?
We operate 7 days a week.
7 days a week. And do you guys have a cost estimate on what it takes to run, to pay for the driver, to keep it operational, fuel expenditure just for that vehicle?
See it?
Hi, so a rough estimate for that, personnel will be around 20, and then the fuel will be around 10, and then mandatory trainings throughout there. So we're looking at where the ballpark figure of 35 to 40,000 a year to maintain the safety and measures to continue to run the program.
And along that line, have you guys made any requests to CODA for any funding assistance, being that it's in line with their program?
I've spoken with several. I've spoken with Alfreda from there, and basically in a nutshell, they got the van, they gave it to the mayor's office, and it was up to us how to fund it, procure all of the things to run the vehicle. But yeah, zero funding or zero anything from CODA.
Sorry, just to follow up. So the agreement, there wasn't an agreement that CODA would help fund it. It was just they'll provide the vehicle and that's it. Okay.
So you guys are sharing office space with DLNR or DNR? And are you guys renting, or just they're allowing you to?
They're allowing us to be there temporary
Understood.
until we find a bigger space or when we get a rental.
Understood. That's it for now. Are you?
Recognize Senator Mendiola.
Thank you. I'm just gonna go down the line real quick. Official representation, 15,000. You need that. Given our financial situation, can we veer away from that? Is it possible? I'm just asking the question.
Yes, we can veer away from that.
I understand you need fuel. I understand you need some operational cost, especially since Transit Authority or the quota is under you guys, and there's absolutely no funds. As a matter of fact, it shouldn't be called Commonwealth Transit Authority. It should be just Saipan Transit Authority because, but yeah, so some of the stuff here really, and the reason why Chair is talking about trying to move the funds to the mayor's office is because or the mayor himself, because he's able to just reprogram based on needs. And for the next fiscal year, it looks like we're going to have to contain our costs and try and make sure that everybody's taken care of, to include Saipan Road. So I pitched this too, that, we just have to figure out a way to just cut all these costs and make sure that at least at the bare minimum, we maintain our employees so that we can ensure that, we can deliver services at a minimal. So, Mr. Chair, that's it I yield for now.
Thank you, Senator Mendiola. Any other members? All right. Sorry, give me 1 second here. So the MOU you still have on board, the one MOU, and have you? Sorry, I'm bringing this up because I feel like I've seen some members attending official functions in Saipan or maybe even Rhoda. Was that funded personally, or was this through appropriations or through the mayor's office? How was your travel funded in the past?
Through our budget. When we have budgeted for travel, when it's exhausted.
Okay. So how much did you use up this fiscal year to date?
Starting this year, most of our travel were sometimes assisted by the mayor's office.
Okay, but just in totality, how much has the council spent this year?
Around 5,000.
5,000. And these sites that you're maintaining, these aren't duplicative efforts with Parks and Recs or other divisions within the mayor's office?
No.
Okay. Okay. Other than that, because personnel is already funded, any concerns with any of the salaries within mayor's office or council? No.
No.
Okay. Thank you. I think that's all we have for now. Um, if there's anything that you'd like to share in addition to what was brought up today, please feel free to reach out to the committee, even your chair, and then he'll relay the message to us. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Mr. Regis. At this time, Tinian Municipal Council is hereby excused, and we will take a 3-minute recess to give the Department of Finance the opportunity to get settled. Short recess. Up next, we have the Department of Finance. We have procurement and supply. It looks like they requested for 70,000 for both personnel and operations, but was proposed at 43,000. We have the Revenue and Tax Division with a request of 149,000, but was proposed at 102,000. It looks like one unfunded position is still included in the proposed budget. Finance and accounting requested for 114 or 178,000, but was proposed at 98,000. All three personnel are still listed. And then customs service in Tinian submitted a budget request of 482,000, but was proposed at 345,000. However, all personnel under customs looks like are at 100% funded. The requests for each agencies are minimal. It's mainly to cover just the basic operational needs, fuel, operation expenses, office supplies, rental offices. I see at 28,000, but I think because the mayor had stated earlier that rental offices was addressed using ARPA, then those are expenses that we can take out. And so, are there any? Maybe I would like to hear from the director if there's any other additional needs that aren't in the proposed budget that we can kind of address. But also, I understand there is a need for a customs dog, and I think last fiscal year the discussions with the director was that one canine unit will be given to each of the two districts. I think with Rhoda, at least the issue is a kennel, and so I want to hear from the director if there are any issues with housing one of the canine units, or maybe that's not part of the plan anymore. But I'll leave that up to you. And so I would like to hand the floor over to Department of Finance.
Thank you, Chairman Manglonia. If I may, I'll just read out my testimony that I've prepared for this afternoon, and then from there we can go over the questions for each division. Good afternoon again, Chairman Manglonia and members of the Fiscal Affairs Committee. My name is Melissa Mendiola, and I am the Resident Director for the Department of Finance in Tinian. Thank you for your presence today and giving me the opportunity to present the department's FY 2024 budget request. If I may, I would like to present the department's priorities. Due to the current financial challenges the government is facing, the department's priorities are: number one, the office space rental, communications, fuel, and operational supplies. I am here today to ask for your consideration in providing operational funding that will sustain the department throughout the fiscal year. The office space rental is a top priority. Currently, the government does not have the available office space for the department. I would like to request for the department to be funded in the amount of 2,400 monthly or 28,800 per year. Next is the department's communication. It is important that we stay connected via telephone and internet. It is the most efficient way in communicating. We currently do not have funds to pay for communication and have experienced disconnection. Personnel will use their personal cell phones to make cell phone calls and connect to their computers to their hotspot to be able to check their emails, but could not access the Munis or JDE financial system. Therefore, I would like to request for the department to be funded to pay for communication for the upcoming fiscal year. Another priority would be basic supplies, mainly inks, toners, papers, and etc. It is important to always have the basic supplies available to avoid disruption in providing basic services such as issuing official receipts and any required documents generated by the department. Finally, I would like to request for minimum operations funding for fuel in which each division would need in order to perform daily operations. Fuel is needed for customs and biosecurity personnel to get to and from their daily duty stations. Operations with the Divert Airfield project for inspections on incoming direct flights and containers for construction materials. Also, the Division of Revenue and Taxation combines submitted collections of daily sales to deposit and pick up deposit bags for their next deposit run. Another need for fuel is the department's vehicle to be utilized for administrative errands on delivering, submitting, or routing documents within the government agencies. I'd like to thank my staff for their patience and effort in continuing their duties and responsibilities with the limited funding sources available towards their needs for their daily operations. With that said, Mr. Chairman, I'm ready for questions and concern in regards to the department's request. Thank you, Mr. Chairman and the members.
Thank you, Director. If we can just go back to the question I posed earlier in regards to the K9 unit. Have you had any discussions with Director Mofnas?
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I was on leave for quite a while, and at the time when those were brought up, um, if I may call upon one of the customs staff to elaborate more.
Sure. Yes.
Mr. Richard Lodger is one of my quarantine officer.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman. I'm Richard Lazaro, for the record, and the discussion on the K9 is still under discussion with the director. There hasn't been any solid information to have it available out down in Tinian, but if we're talking about kennel space, we work closely with Fish and Wildlife that we could probably utilize the brown tree snake kennels or the DPS kennels back here that was utilized back then with the custom K9. So we could always renovate those kennels back here behind DPS, which is more secure for a K9 unit if it does come true.
But again, those will come with funding sources, which is not going to happen real soon.
Okay. Thank you. Since you're up here, Officer Lazaro, you're in charge. You're in charge of your division.
No, sir. Our OIC, our acting OIC right now is
Oh,
Mr.
okay.
Robert Regis, right here on the left.
Would you be able to answer anything in regards to overtime for customs personnel? How often do you officers go out and inspect on non-business hours?
Yes, I could. Okay, so basically, currently we have an average of shipments coming in from continental US, foreign countries, or Saipan, Guam. So we get an average vessel coming in every 2 weeks that's scheduled specifically mostly for black construction. So we average, and they're usually scheduled on the weekends, so Saturday, Sunday. And if it doesn't, so they do it during regular working hours. And we also have the Star Maranas and Micronesian Air that do charter flights, and that also creates overtime up at the airport. And then we have the military operations that operates out of all the ports, from the seaport, airport to Baker Runway back at Northfield, and that creates a lot of overtime when it comes to the military because they operate majority out of the regular working hours.
I think one of the earmark on CIQ was suspended, and so I guess my next question would be, do you have enough personnel to kind of stagger your hours to where they can they would be able to inspect these vessels without incurring overtime?
We do have enough personnel, but as far as we operate under a regular working schedule for Tinian, because we don't have an active port that's open, like all these overtime that's occurred are always either unscheduled or last minute requests. So there is basically it's hard to avoid, or we cannot just schedule somebody to come out and work on a Saturday that nothing's happening, right, or no schedule. And then the military is the biggest overtime one because they're the ones that really don't run on a schedule. You're left there, they give you a schedule, and you're left there to wait. And they're very high risk, especially when it comes to the invasive species, the biosecurity part.
Okay. I see you have, of your 11 employees, I guess the budget has them listed separately, one as quarantine officers and one as custom inspectors. Are they cross-trained to handle both?
Yes, we are cross-trained on both customs and biosecurity. So in Tinian, everybody does both custom duties. We do assessments for taxes, and the customs are cross-trained to do biosecurity work.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Officer Lazaro. My question now is to Director Mendiola. One of the discussions that we've been having with Secretary Narita is to provide or to transfer funds over to the municipalities so that the municipalities can, take more responsibilities in processing, whether it be PRs or payments to vendors. Do you have the capacity to handle all government operations that are typically handled by central finance?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
We were doing that with JD Edwards.
Okay. Yes, it was under the department and then it got transferred over. So if we were to try to get it back with your current staff today, you have enough to go back to the way it was when it was JD Edwards.
Yes.
Thank you. How much in expenses has the department incurred in the current fiscal year? In total, if that's a figure you have in front of you.
I don't have the exact figure, but it'll be very little because in the beginning we did not have any operational funds. So with the vacant FTE in some of the divisions, I was able to request to reprogram from personnel to operations.
For this fiscal year, are all these
In the
positions
beginning.
now filled?
No, there's two that are vacant. One under procurement and one under financial services.
Procurement, I only have you. I have two under that division. So now you only have one. You said there was one
Yeah,
vacant.
I'm sorry, there's one that's vice to the one that recently resigned.
Okay. Has the procurement division done? Have they done what's the term? An audit on the inventory of all equipment within the municipality? Recently?
Towards the end of of fiscal year 2022, we were working together with procurement in Saipan as to auditing all the departments with whatever assets that they have. And then when come Munis, we had to go back and enter all of the inventories from the JD to the Munis. So we're pretty much up to date. And then my staff from procurement will normally, as she sees new purchase orders for inventory, she'll communicate with the departments to update whatever inventory that we have inputted into Munis.
Okay, so you have an accounting of all government equipments.
Yes.
Any concerns in regards to government equipments and missing equipment?
I can say there are some missing equipments, but then after going back and going through the documents and them remembering, then they do identify the equipment.
Thank you. Based on the audit, have you seen the OPA's audit, the recent audit that was published?
With the collection points,
Yes. Any concerns in regards to Tinian's? What was reported on Tinian?
I don't think OPA has audited Tinian. Well, it happened 2022. They didn't come here to Tinian.
Okay. How many collection points does Tinian have?
We have 3. 4. Okay, so we have 4: the airport, seaport, the post office, and the in Central.
Okay. I think just one more before I hand it over. Does your department have? Do you have any? Do you have a treasury division
Yes, the cashier.
separate from rev and tax?
They're together in one
One
office
office?
space. Yes.
So there's no directive to have them separated.
No.
May I answer that, Mr. Chair? Actually, we only have the revenue and tax here, so we don't have a personnel that's actually strictly under the treasury division. So all of our staff within the in Tinian Finance is revenue and tax that do cash work.
Okay. So it's not a requirement to have one specifically for treasury.
We have one cashier that handles all
Oh,
government fees payment, and then we have a cashier for rev and tax.
Okay.
But the cashier, as what Richard was saying, the cashier falls under the division of rev and tax.
Okay. Thank you. At this time, I open the floor to the members. Recognize Senator Carl.
Thank you, Chairman. I thank you, Director, and thank you, Ms. Lazar, for being here. Obviously, biosecurity is always going to be a point of main concern for us here in this UNMI, especially Tinian, with the ramping up of activities. Could you please give the committee an understanding of what has happened to the canine position? Like, give us like the backstory of what happened to the canine position, where you guys are in the conversation with regards to the position, etc.
As far as for the canine, we're talking about custom canine, right? The discussion hasn't really been a solid discussion because you're still looking for grants and fundings to fund that operation. No? So basically, it's not really concrete.
With regards to, thank you for that. With regards to, in line with the question that was posed by Chairman Mangonia, with regards to the current staffing and being able to augment the shifts so as to minimize overtime. You said you're able to some degree, and to some extent, make those changes in scheduling. My question is, in this FY, we've felt an increase in operational tempo with regards to Black Micro, the divert. Now, at what point do you guys feel as if there will be a tipping point with regards to your staffing and being stretched too thin? Is that in the immediate? Are you guys good for now? Is like because we're going to be budgeting through the FY24, right? So knowing what's coming, do you feel comfortable that your staffing is adequate to accommodate?
Currently, yes, I do feel comfortable with our current staff because as far as we're talking about overtime, right? We might not be able to change or make people work or stagger shift and stuff, but we can limit the number of personnel that go out to do the inspection depending on the workload. So that's how we've been operating. So we get an advance notice on what kind of shipment we're going to expect, so we can adjust with the number of personnel. If we're getting a full load, we'll put on a full load of staffing out there to assure everything is checked and properly inspected. As far as a minimal workload, we can send out just 2 staff, 1 custom, 1 quarantine. So, but as far as going through 2024, I think our 11 staff will do it, but we can always use new personnel. That's always welcome, to have more staff and get them trained, because we're looking at a 5-year project with Black, and this first phase and the second phase, it keeps multiplying on the number of shipments that we're receiving.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was alluding to with it, right? It's happening. It's happening fast, and before we know it, it's going to be on top of us. And how do we react as an agency in the vein of biosecurity in that breath?
Yes, because currently as well, Custom Biosecurity has taken over the invasive species project from DNR. So we're managing all the CRB trappings presently here in Tinian, controlling the seaport, the airport. So we manage those traps and maintain them, keep them operational. So we're not just adding workload to our staff, but also, with the military operations, they've been increasing their number of trainings. Just currently, if we look at this year, we just finished about 4 trainings. We have one happening today back at Northfield, and so they keep adding more different types of training with the military. So 11 we might run short in 2024, but if we can add additional FTEs to hire more custom biosecurity, it will be a great help.
Thank you for that, and I appreciate the sentiment. I understand. Now, if I could, Director, with regards to the request for the communications, you said that your phone line is no longer was cut.
No, it's been it's in operational now.
It's
It
operational.
was caught for a week.
Okay. Okay. Now the request, I guess, in the submission, there's a $10,000 request for comms. Is that comprehensive of the bill for the phone line, computers? What all is encompassed by entailed in that request?
Sorry, Senator, is that under financial services or what division?
Under finance, Department of Finance. What's it?
And you said under communication?
Uh-huh. Yes, ma'am.
10,000.
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Well, I just kind of wanted to get an understanding of the breakdown for the request. Is it for equipment? I know in our previous conversations, last budget, it was all of the information technology was supposed to fall under Office of Information Technology, and now there's a request for comms, and I just kind of want to understand what that request entails.
Yes, the previous budget request, we had the OIT, because we had to transfer all of those from DNR to the new office space. And we were required to provide new gears and all of that stuff because they didn't want us to reuse wirings and all that stuff. So with the Munis system, we have to run on a secure network with OIT. We can't just run Wi-Fi, and
Correct.
especially with finance, because everything is secured. And same goes with customs. Down at the seaport, we need a secure, steady internet lines, because as what director mentioned earlier, we were shut down for a whole week, and that became a problem with collecting taxes, collecting payments. It put us on a standstill that we had to do them manually and not file them or input them into the system.
That makes sense.
But the 10,000 that you were asking about, that would cover for internet, phone, and cell phone communication for the staff. Because like she mentioned earlier, the majority of the staff are using their own personal phones to communicate, just to keep operation going.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that. You can answer.
Thank you, Senator Carl. Speaking of phones, is there any government issued phones here to
Cell
any agency
Cell phones?
issued? Yes.
Yes, there's some.
Okay.
None for finance.
Okay. How many offices does finance occupy,
We are
including all
renting
divisions?
2, 3, 4.
Four
Four,
offices,
yes.
4 separate offices,
Yes.
and
Actually, the 2 are in one building, and then we have the other 2 elsewhere, which is the seaport and post office for
okay.
customs and
So
biosecurity.
you're just renting one. You just have one rental for the main office.
2 rental space.
Okay.
So one space is for financial services and procurement. The other space is rev and tax and the cashier, finance cashier.
Sorry, there are these divisions you're mentioning. They're in 2 separate locations.
Same location, but
But-
different space, 2 separate space.
Same building. Same building, but they're
So you're
just-
renting 2 units, but then okay. So, but the rental that you listed, the 28,000, I think, Is that-
2,400 a month, yes.
that's for all your 2 units.
Yes.
Okay. How's your communications with the OIT in on Saipan? Have they addressed all your concerns?
Yes, not right away, but then we also won't stop calling until we're being assisted. So they'll take care.
And so all your trainings and concerns have been addressed by OIT.
Yes.
Okay. Members have anything else?
Just
Recognize. Yeah.
let's see. You want to? Oh, you. Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, Director. and,
Good afternoon,
Rich
Senator.
and Rob. Thanks for being here. Just on the operational side, circling back to customs and quarantine. No? Earlier, you said 11 is currently sufficient, but of course, additional no in anticipation. As far as the CIQ or now CQ funds, how does that work? How do we do it here on Tinian?
I'm not quite sure, Senator, but it came to our attention that Tinian, for our overtime and stuff, we were assuming that it was coming out of the CQ account and get reimbursed back when billing gets paid. So we were just informed by the director that it was coming out of our operational funds. That's why we're hitting the red
But
on our personnel's.
so, just for clarification, in one of the things that we often see is the CQ, the general conversation, and I know that we're in passing conversation with both you gentlemen in the past. You've always bring that up. That where is it going? How is it factored into Tinian or Rhoda for that matter, or Saipan? So now, just hearing that it's actually coming from the general fund that you're allocated to. So, have you guys inquired as to how is that so? When we actually have, unless we repeal that, I don't think, Mr. Chairman, we repealed that. No, in the yeah.
I can verify, Senator. Right now, what we see is when the customs and biosecurity incur overtime, it comes out from the Division of Customs and Biosecurity Business Unit. So when the agents come, or when the division bills the agents the overtime, and the agents come back to finance and pays, or comes back to customs and pays the overtime bill to them, those funds go into the the CQ account under the general funds. So what I'm assuming that should be done is whenever financial services does their reconciliation, when they take whatever funds that are being paid under the general funds and then transfer it to whatever, in our case, back to the customs and biosecurity account. So we paid overtime under customs account. Comes the agent pays the overtime back to finance. Finance has to return that back to the customs and biosecurity account.
Okay. Okay, thank you. So, in some of the previous conversation or not conversation, but I'm hearing in the house, they often ask about revolving funds and all that to other agencies. Do we have any that is under your watch that you can actually collect and then turn around and use it to fund your agency? Or does it have to go through central treasury or financial services?
We don't have any revolving fund account right now.
Okay. So okay, thank you. So again, the CQ, you don't have any. You just submit and then you get paid, right?
Yes.
But it's reflective of the allocation for your agency, no?
Yes.
So that's why you're red.
Yes.
One of the reasons why. Okay. Now my other question is, as far as the operational side, during the meetings or during the CJMT, revised CJMT presentation, there's handouts of 10 or 11 FAQs, frequently asked questions with regards to the concerns of the community. And one of them is number 7, is the non-invasive or non-native and invasive species from Tinian. And I guess it boils back to I thought I heard that you guys are taking care of coconut rhino beetle now. Is that 100% just outside the CNMI or including within the CNMI?
Uh, that's just outside the CNMI, but our trapping covers within the CNMI.
Doesn't say, oh,
Tinian.
you're from
Yeah.
CNMI na coconut rhino, so you're not
Yeah.
part of this trap. Okay.
But our
Okay,
trapping
that's-
is set to monitor Tinian shipping that comes in, GPPC, Pacific Marine.
Has there any been interdiction so far?
Negative, no.
It's a good news.
Yeah, all
Yeah.
the trapping project has been no negative.
So you're only handling CRB na BTS, no?
No BTS.
Okay.
BTS is handled under Fish and Wildlife.
Right, okay. The reason why I asked this, and I think I ask this almost every year, no, Rich and Director Rob, because of the known, no, the revelation that's in Rhoda, right?
Yes.
And there's active inbound flights and domestic and shipping, and we certainly don't want that to fly over. So I commend you guys for the outstanding job to hopefully you don't need to intercept. You just
We're doing our best,
right.
but we're working closely to with our counterparts with Wildlife Service in Guam and also the Colorado State University biosecurity team. So whenever they're here, we work together on all military operations and stuff and share trapping duties, and we assure that all the inspection that comes into Tinian are well checked
Okay.
on both ends.
Good to know, Rich. And I applaud the relationship that you guys built between the clients that you entertain and what you guys do here. Because again, it's one of those frequently asked questions that was embedded in our EIS. Okay, Mr. Chairman, maybe the director. How's the financial service system right now as far as munis, JD Edwards? How are we doing with that? I mean,
When the Muni system first started, it was a challenge for us. We received trainings from the Munis people in the beginning, but that's just one day of training. it's difficult at times where you have this one crash course or training in one day versus when you operate on a daily basis, you come into something that has nothing to do with whatever you're being trained. So that was the challenge that I can say all of the departments were experiencing, which is in communication with the municipal that can actually help us. It was um, runarounds and waiting period. So our option was to call our counterparts in Saipan and try to explain what we were facing. And sad to say, sometimes, I understand everyone's busy, but then they'll ask, didn't you guys get trained? Yes, we did got trained for one day. You guys are lucky up there that those munis people are there with you. And whenever you guys are doing your daily operations, they're there to see what you're encountering. And I'm pretty sure I share the same sentiment as Rhoda, where, where a lot of times we have to pause what we want to accomplish during the day because we can't do anything ourselves. We need assistance, and the assistance is not available here in our island. But slowly, we a lot of times we figure out ourselves. We, like they say, play around, and we do that too.
Do you-
But yes, it was a challenge in the beginning
So-
with Munis.
So at this juncture right now, how is it facilitating the
We
service?
got better until recently where everything is C, so we don't receive any requests. We don't have any workflow that's waiting for us. There's no funds for the
What's workflow?
workflow is the chain of approvals to the request.
I actually know what it is. I just want to go on record for
Talo,
asking that.
Senator.
No, seriously, because I share the same sentiment. And it's
It's a
important to know.
challenge.
It's important to note it in this platform, because even though we're talking budget, but along comes operations too. We need to facilitate it on a day-to-day basis. And I think the point that I'm trying to stress here, Mr. Chairman, is this is the challenges. This is the reality of the municipalities. And I'm certain that it's shared amongst our brothers and sisters in Rhoda. So as we navigate through the budget process, these are the things that we pose a question to central government to allow some sort of flexibility so that we can continue servicing our people here. Vendors are they knocking on your door sometimes because their payments are not being made?
Yes, but sad to say, I can't really help other than help them
Has there
follow
been-
up with Treasury.
Has there been instances where they have to shut their door and say you can't deal with Melissa anymore in finance?
No, and we're very lucky.
Okay. Well, we don't want to have to let that happen. So, we're gonna work through the process and we'll do our best. Keep collecting those revenues that we see. I'm very impressed with. I don't know if you guys shared it with the committee because I missed it, but I want to say that I'm very proud of the accomplishments of the agencies here, and of course the municipality with what we have going here, and we take things very seriously. We know what we want, and we want to be contributing to the recovery of the entire CNMI. So I commend Director, the Nizamo staff. Please keep up the great work, and we'll do our best also to make sure that some of these concerns are addressed, with the most minimal setbacks.
It's the-
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Senator Jude. And I think that's why I was asking about OIT and how supportive they've been. Because if they haven't provided your office that support, then it's either we give you one FTE or we invest in someone having to get trained so that you have a contact person. Because there's this OIT central government division, but we don't have that in the municipality, right? And so, even I had to learn how to do my I know how to process POs. So if you need help, just let me know. Yeah. And so, I understand that they trained you in one day and you're expected to know everything, right? And so that's a challenge that we face as a municipality. It's not having that extension of a
Yes.
division and the support. So one thing I wanted to bring up, and this was what I was discussing with Senator Carl, is a local law. And I don't know if this is for you or maybe the mayor, but um, are you the custodian of municipal funds?
No. It's the treasurer over at the municipal treasury.
So they go to the bank. That's a separate department. Okay. So sorry if I can just go back briefly to the mayor. Do you guys collect a Tinian vehicular environmental impact fee? This is a local law.
That's the issue with that particular law is the Secretary of Finance is supposed to promulgate the regulation to enforce the collections, and it should trickle down to the resident director
But why Department Secretary of Finance?
because
It says
it's-
Tinian Director of DLNR and DPW, along with the Tinian Municipal Treasurer, may promulgate mutually agreed upon regulations to implement the act.
so because it was introduced as a cinema statute, local law, introduced in the House, and it went to be to the second senatorial district, and then the only setback was that promulgating regulation was vested with the secretary, to my understanding, because I drafted that bill in the 15th legislature.
Yeah, and then it was amended in the 18th. Were you there in the 18th?
No, I didn't know if they did amend it, but yeah, it was supposed to collect the.
Yeah,
From,
amended by Tinian Local Law 18-8. Okay, because that's another source. It's $5 for every vehicle or tour bus.
Yeah.
Um,
In a separate, I believe, as chairman, in a separate bill, there was a bill that was also to collect from hotels, motels, Airbnbs, but it was just not regulated. The promulgating
the
regulation was not
regulation
in-
part. Okay, so
For
maybe
the
that's
municipality.
something that can either clarify with the AG or maybe your legal counsel to see if that's something that you can start implementing as another source of
I
revenue.
think with that,
generating.
a couple months ago, we were talking about that with the leadership, and then
Okay.
that should be addressed to the secretary. But if it was amended in the 18th, and it allows for the delegation of the council to adopt the promulgating regulation,
Yeah,
or,
okay.
or just straight out from finance, well, should do it. I think
Okay.
we should do it.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. I didn't know who was the custodian of those, but anything else for Department of Finance? I'll wait for. Vice, did you have anything for Department of Finance?
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to commend the finance team and the customs and biosecurity team for a great job and for taking on additional responsibilities beyond your scope of work. And I think what Senator Carl was alluding to, that with phase 2 coming up and with activities ramping up, I would like to encourage you to request for additional FTEs just to help alleviate, the human resources aspect of it. It's great that you have ample personnel at this time, but I'm sure all those personnel would like to take some time off, or maybe when they're sick, you need additional help, to fill in the gaps. So just wanted to commend you guys for all the challenges that you guys are faced with and are very resilient in finding ways to resolve your issues. So thank you for great job. Thank you. That's
Thank
it, I
you,
yield.
Vice. If there's nothing else from the members, I'd like to thank you, Director Mendiola and Officer Lazaro, for your time here this afternoon. And as I've stated with previous entities, if there's anything that you would like to share that we missed today, please feel free to reach out to the committee.
Okay,
Thank you
Mr.
for your
Chair.
time today.
Thank you,
and you're
and to
hereby
the members, thank
excused.
you as well.
Thank you. Up next, we have DPW, and we will start with them at 3:45. Short recess. Back from recess, and up last on today's agenda, we have the Department of Public Works. And so if I can invite the director to join us. The Department of Public Works submitted a budget request of 478,000. The governor's proposal is listed at 278,000. So there's a difference of about 200,000. Department is requesting for 3 additional FTEs. But the governor maintained the 12 that was approved in the current fiscal year. And the House did not make any changes